confront foreign interference in American elections, it's important for us to avoid thinking politically as Republicans or Democrats, and instead to think patriotically as Americans. Our response must not depend on which side was victimized.
That's Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein Friday announcing Robert Mueller's latest indictment in the Russia investigation. Let's bring in the Powerhouse Roundtable. Democratic strategist Donna Brazile. She served as the DNC chair in 2016 after the hack and leaking of emails from the Democratic National Committee. Chris Christie, former New Jersey governor and ABC News contributor, he led President Trump's transition team in the final months of the campaign. Steve Inskeep, host of NPR's Morning Edition, and Elizabeth Buemiller, Washington bureau chief of the New York Times. So, Donna, this had to be a personal experience reading this indictment. What went through your mind as you read the details, exhaustive details?
First of all, it is finally acknowledged that the hacking was a crime. That's number one. Number two, at the time of the hacking, no one believed us, and we didn't have anyone to come to our defense. President Trump this morning said that the Democratic Party should be ashamed of itself. Well, my response to the president is that there was no way we could go to Staples or Best Buy or Office Depot or Office Max to buy anti-GRU military intelligence software to protect and defend ourselves when the country was under attack, the DNC was under attack, the DCCC in the Clinton campaign. So here's what I like to say to the president. Confront Mr. Putin, give him this document, let him know that the United States will not tolerate another hacking of our elections, 2018, 2020. Like President Obama, also make sure that the federal agencies are prepared this election cycle. All of our election integrity system must be up to date. And I think the most important thing, now that we know that there are several witches, not some 400-pound guy sitting on the bed, the president needs to acknowledge this and recognize that he has to protect and defend our democracy. The Russians took our emails, took our data, and they could still use that information to try to sow discord and to damage our democratic institutions.
And Governor Christie, if you look, one of the most remarkable things in this indictment is it says that the Russians took actions to target Hillary Clinton's personal email server on or about July 27th, 2016. This is what the president had to say on that day.
I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
What the president said,
I remember. You don't
he said clearly.
I remember. Listen,
he directly asked Russia to get the emails, and
yes.
John,
they acted.
John, let's not demean what is an extraordinary bit of work here by Mueller and his people and the Department of Justice by trying to connect those two. What also, if you read the whole indictment, it says is that all these attempts started in March and April before that. So the aluminum foil hat folks who want to say, oh, well, Trump said this on the 27th, and so then they did it. They've been working to get.
You don't find that to be an extraordinary
I do think that every once in a while, John, there are coincidences in life, and the idea that they could start an operation based upon what they heard in the morning from the president or in the evening from the presidential candidate Donald Trump is just ridiculous when you read this entire indictment. This was an absolute plan to go after Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and the other Democratic campaign committees. And so the idea that somehow they were spurred on by what Donald Trump said, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. The idea that they had here from the beginning and is laid out in that indictment very clearly, and I was saying this earlier, it's a talking indictment. It allowed us to really see a lot of the evidence, a lot more than you normally put in an indictment, is that these Russian military actors had every intention of trying to damage this election process and to hurt Hillary Clinton. That's what they were trying to do. They didn't need Donald Trump's suggestion to do it. They were doing it months before that comment.
And this is a solid case. Listen, I mean, this is not a product of a witch hunt. This is...
No, and let's make this distinction, too. I think the president's reference to witch hunt has always been about collusion. And that's why I've always read his statements, is that the allegation of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians is a witch hunt. And I think that you get some support for that in this indictment when the Deputy Attorney General says there's no evidence of Americans knowingly speaking to Russian military actors who were putting this on. And I think the thing that people haven't said before, I think is important to be said for the American people who are listening out there, this isn't just the Department of Justice or Bob Mueller. This is a group of ordinary Americans who sit in a grand jury in the District of Columbia who heard this and have said there is probable cause to believe that this crime was committed beyond a reasonable doubt. That's powerful for the American people who are listening out there. This isn't a group of lawyers sitting around. This is a group of regular citizens serving as grand jurors in the District of Columbia who have said this evidence deserves their vote, and they gave it to them.
Steve?
The president has not said anything that you just said, Governor, as strongly as you did. You just very strongly said this indictment shows an attack on the United States. That's not the president's message today. The president's message today is that the Democrats are to blame. He hasn't spoken up for the country in any statement that we have yet seen. This is an indictment that shows a series of actions that not only targeted certain people in the United States, but clearly affected the election campaign. We can't say it affected anybody's vote. We don't know that anybody voted differently, but we do know that these hacked emails were a huge part of the news of the campaign at various points over a period of months.
And by the way, the intelligence agencies in January of 2017 found that the goal of the Russians was to help Donald Trump as well as to hurt Hillary Clinton. So the idea that somehow, and I agree with you, the White House statement that came out after the indictment was mostly about there were no Americans involved. There wasn't a word, and the president has not said a word about the fact that this was an attack on our electoral system and that it could happen again in 2018.
But let me ask you, this indictment makes it clear this was a Russian military intelligence operation to hack these emails. And as you said, it dominated the news for a good part of the campaign. Does the news media writ large bear some of the responsibility?
Yes.
We, all of us.
You bet.
Yes.
Over day after day,
Yes.
reported the substance and details
Yes.
of these emails that were stolen by the
Blew
Russians.
blew it out of proportion. 184 times. What WikiLeaks did once they received the information is they used it strategically each day to shape the political narrative. And the media played it up. It was the only story. It was very difficult to break through the media once that became the story of the day. It was a very highly sophisticated cyber operations that had to involve someone who understood how to shape this narrative.
That is certainly true, but what would you have had the media do? Just say, we're not going to touch this?
You should have said this information is from stolen, hacked emails. And the lives that you put at risk when this happened, the lives you put at risk when you use this information and weaponize it, it went right to the heart of what Mr. Putin was trying to do in our election.
Let's be candid. I was working on the other side from Don at that time. But the point is that we live in a media culture today that only cares about getting whatever is new first. And the idea of what damage that may cause or not cause becomes a secondary or even tertiary concern. And you know, Don is right. People were put at risk here in a way, because of the way this was played, that was irresponsible. There should have been a lot more work done on this before we started.
Well, the RNC was pushing this stuff out pretty well.
I want to agree with one word that Donna Brazile used. You talked about narrative. If embarrassing information is out there about you, and there was embarrassing information about you, we got to report it. We can't pretend it's not there.
But you got half the information because you had hacked, stolen emails. You had half of my files. You didn't have my whole file. What Putin wanted to do, and it wasn't personal. Look, I understood it wasn't personal, so I didn't take it personally. That's why I kept doing my job. And my job every day was to try to focus on the election. But what your job was to say that these are hacked, stolen emails, and they came from a corrupted source. You knew enough to say that, but you didn't do that.
Well, there's where I would agree with you, is that the media should be careful about the narrative that they sketch and what is the story that's being told.
It was giving complete credibility.
I would defend my news organization.
It was giving complete credibility.
And I would also say that the reason we know much about this is because of what we wrote, the story called The Perfect Weapon, where we went through this. Eric Lipton, David Sanger, Scott Shane.
I agree.
Yes.
The reason you know much about this, and we knew about it so early, was because of the reporting we did afterward and went through the entire narrative, step by step.
And we worked with your reporters, and I appreciate the work that you guys did.
But remember one other thing, though, here is that was all after the fact. But at the
Correct.
time you were playing this, the media was playing this at the time as if this was credible sourcing. And what Donna said is absolutely right. You had to know they didn't have all of her emails. They just took the most embarrassing ones. And you can't assess the credibility of somebody with just part of a story, but the media banged her and a lot of other people in the Clinton campaign unfairly.
I think.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.